I'd love to tell you a little bit more about the survey that I had several students from across Montgomery County, a district in Maryland, fill out about their counselors and the counseling department in the public school system in Montgomery County. This kind of all originated from the fact that, I was seeing students struggling from mental health, and many students didn't know where to go to seek support. A lot of times students were lost, and they came to me, they came to other friends, but strangely, they weren't going to their counselors, the place that you'd think that many students would go to seek support. So after some time and talking to students, I realized that many students had horror stories about the counseling department. They were turned away, they were rejected, they weren't given the support that they properly needed. So I decided to see if I could do anything about it. I wanted to learn more about what was going on. And to do this, my mind kind of went straight to Google Forms. It's a pretty easy way just to collect a lot of data. So essentially what I did was I filled out this Google form asking several questions about different aspects of the counseling department. How effectively do they support students' mental health in urgent situations and non-urgent situations? How well does the counseling department reach out to students? How well do they follow up and keep relationships with students? And all these different aspects about it. And for several days, I canvassed sending this Google form out to as many people as I could. Eventually, I got back almost 500 responses from all different schools in my county. And immediately I got back a striking response from students where they genuinely did not feel like the counseling department was supporting them the ways that they needed. Many times they thought the counselors didn't have enough time for them, that students had to work to squeeze into a counselor's schedule, that counselors were apathetic to what was going on in these students' lives and were just trying to, get down the checklist and get them out the door as soon as possible. And so this was kind of the first step I took into, learning more about these issues that was going on. And I was able to use this really convenient, really free piece of technology that allowed me to get responses from students all across my area. And, of course, I took that and, I brought it to the counselors at different schools and tried to learn more from their perspective. And that kind of culminated with a letter that I sent along with other students to the superintendent and the Board of Education in my county. And of course, that didn't necessarily go so well. Though I did have meetings, I never saw a real change occur. I was able to collect a lot of data on how students were feeling using this piece of technology. And so to talk a little bit more about policies in the future, I really think the most important policy to focus on would be the education of students in regards to their power. Now, let me explain a little bit more what I mean by students' power. Uh, in high school, we only have one class that teaches us about government, and that would be AP government. And that really focuses on government in a broad sense. It focuses on the federal government and bureaucracy in an ideal sense, but it doesn't go into the nitty-gritties of day-to-day life within the government, and it doesn't focus on the local and state governments whatsoever. So even though I had all this data that I collected and all the student support saying that there needed to be a change, and all these students giving me practical changes that could be implemented, I didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't have the proper education to make the changes that students need. And so that's what I mean when I say I had the power to find all these students who wanted to make a change, who needed support, but I dropped the ball a little bit in that I didn't have the education that I needed. So in a policy sense, I think this should be altering the education that students receive within schools. Having a heavier focus on the systems of government, the intricate process when a bill turns into law, the practical approach to government, in a sense of the quid pro quo and the use of leverage that is very commonplace. And also the process and impact of advocacy, because students have a lot of power to advocate for themselves, yet many students simply don't know how. And also, this doesn't need to be implemented necessarily into policy. There's a lot that can be done outside of the policy sense. We could have workshops to educate students about their power, about what they can do to advocate for themselves. We can have infographics to disperse among students to give them quick and easy tips about how to make the changes that they want to see. and also having a lot more easy to access information online. So during this process, most of my time I was relying on a combination of common sense and Google searches and realizing that a lot of this information not being taught in school and not even being really readily available online needs to be dispersed to students a lot more. Students have a lot of power, and it's our responsibility to help them find it.